10-year-old Elijah was a quiet boy. Living in the heart of a bustling southern town in the 1960s, he often found solace in drawing. His sketchpad was his escape, a place where the lines he created formed worlds free of the shadows of prejudice that surrounded him. Elijah's family was one of the few black families in their neighborhood. His father worked long hours as a mechanic, and his mother cleaned houses for the wealthier families in town. Despite their hard work, whispers and cold stares followed them everywhere. Elijah, being a sensitive child, felt the weight of these unspoken barriers. At school, the other children ignored him, except for one, a girl named Grace. Grace, with her golden hair and infectious laugh, didn't seem to notice the divide that kept others away from Elijah. She shared her lunch with him when he forgot his, complimented his drawings, and even stood up for him when a group of boys teased him. "Elijah's my friend," she declared one day, her small voice steady and firm. But the world outside their classroom wasn't as kind. One evening, Elijah's father returned home, his face grim. He sat down at the kitchen table, his hands trembling as he picked at the calloused skin on his fingers. Elijah's mother placed a gentle hand on his shoulder. "What happened?" she asked softly. "They slashed my tires," he replied, his voice heavy. "Left a note on the truck, too. Said we should go back to where we came from." Elijah, listening from the hallway, clenched his fists. He didn't understand why people hated his family, why they couldn't see how hard his parents worked or how kind his mother was. That night, he stayed up late, sketching furiously. He drew his father's hands, strong and steady despite the abuse they endured. He drew his mother's tired but determined eyes. And then, for the first time, he drew himself, standing tall, holding a sign that read, "We belong here." The next day at school, the principal made an announcement. A local fair was hosting an art competition, and children were encouraged to submit their work. Elijah hesitated but thought about his sketch from the night before. It wasn't just a drawing, it was his voice, loud and defiant in a world that tried to silence him. With Grace's encouragement, he submitted his piece. A week later, the results were announced. Elijah's drawing had won first place. But instead of feeling proud, he was terrified. His picture would be displayed in the town square during the fair, a public declaration of his feelings in a place where such sentiments weren't welcome. "Elijah," his mother said when she saw the fear in his eyes, "you've done something brave. Don't let anyone take that from you." On the day of the fair, Elijah stood beside his parents in the crowded square. His drawing, larger than life, was mounted on an easel for all to see. People murmured as they passed, some nodding in approval, others glaring. Then, a voice broke through the noise. "It's beautiful," Grace said, standing next to him. Her parents were a few steps behind, their expressions a mix of pride and discomfort. Grace held Elijah's hand tightly, her small act of solidarity speaking louder than words. The murmurs grew louder, but Elijah stood firm. His parents' presence grounded him, and Grace's unwavering support gave him strength. As the day went on, something remarkable happened. A few people approached Elijah and his family, offering kind words and smiles. One woman even said, "Your boy has talent. Real talent." It wasn't a tidal wave of change, but it was a ripple, a small sign that perhaps not everyone in the town was ruled by hatred and fear. Years later, Elijah would look back on that day as the moment he found his voice. His drawings became more than an escape, they became a tool for change, capturing the struggles and triumphs of his community. And though the road was long and fraught with challenges, Elijah never forgot the lesson he learned as a child. Even in the face of silence, a single voice, no matter how small, could make a difference. Elijah's win at the art competition became the catalyst for a shift in his life. Word spread about the young boy who dared to draw his truth, and soon, his work began to inspire conversations in the town. Some parents complained to the school about Elijah's political drawing, demanding it be taken down. Others, however, defended him, insisting that children like Elijah deserved to have their stories told. The town became a divided place. Some clung tightly to their prejudices, while others began to see the cracks in the walls they'd built. One afternoon, Elijah's teacher, Mrs. Whitaker, approached him after class. She was an older woman, stern but fair, and she had always treated him kindly. "Elijah," she said, kneeling to meet his eyes, "your art has more power than you know. It makes people think. Don't ever stop creating, no matter what anyone says." Her words stayed with him as he continued to draw. Elijah began to sketch scenes of unity and hope, as well as the pain and injustice he witnessed. Each piece was a reflection of his world, not just the hardships, but also the resilience and love that held his family and community together. As Elijah grew older, his talent caught the attention of people outside the small town. A journalist from a nearby city visited to write a feature about him. When the article was published, Elijah's story of courage and creativity reached a much wider audience. Offers of scholarships and mentorships began pouring in. But Elijah never forgot where he came from. Before accepting any opportunities, he made a promise to his parents. "I'll go and learn everything I can," he told them, "but I'll come back and use it to help our community." His father, who rarely showed emotion, simply nodded, pride glistening in his eyes. Years later, Elijah returned to the town that had both challenged and shaped him. He was no longer the quiet boy with a sketchpad. He was a renowned artist whose work was displayed in galleries across the country. But his proudest achievement was a community center he helped build in his hometown. It became a place where children could learn, create, and dream, a haven for kids like Elijah had once been. At the center's opening ceremony, Elijah stood before a crowd that included his parents, Grace, and many of the townspeople who had supported him over the years. In his speech, he said, "Art gave me a voice when I felt like I didn't have one. It's not just about drawing or painting, it's about telling our stories, standing up for what's right, and imagining a better future. This center is for everyone who has ever felt unseen or unheard. Together, we can create something beautiful." The applause was thunderous, and as Elijah looked out at the faces in the crowd, he saw not just division, but hope that the ripples he started as a child could one day become waves of change. As the years passed, Elijah's community center became more than just a place for art and creativity, it was a beacon of unity in the town. Children of all backgrounds came to paint, sculpt, and share their stories. Parents who had once lived on opposite sides of an unspoken divide found themselves chatting in the center's halls, brought together by their children's shared joy. Elijah, now a man in his 30s, often walked through the center's studios, offering advice and encouragement. His favorite moments were the ones where a child timidly showed him their first painting or drawing. He saw himself in their uncertain eyes, and he always made sure to tell them, "This is beautiful. Never stop creating." One day, while cleaning out the center's storage room, Elijah came across an old, worn-out sketchpad. It was the same one he had carried as a child, the one filled with his dreams, fears, and his very first acts of resistance. Flipping through the pages, he smiled at the crude but heartfelt drawings and the courage they had symbolized. A year later, Elijah's story came full circle when he was invited to display his childhood drawings, alongside his more recent work, at a major art exhibition in the city. The gallery was packed, and among the attendees were people from his hometown, including Grace and her family, Mrs. Whitaker, and even some of the children who now attended the community center. Elijah stood in front of his most iconic piece, the sketch that had won the art competition all those years ago. It was framed now, preserved as a symbol of resilience and hope. Beneath it was a plaque that read, "We belong here, the beginning of a voice." During his speech at the event, Elijah addressed the crowd with a calm confidence that had once seemed impossible for the shy boy he had been. This drawing was my first step toward believing I had something to say, he said. It wasn't easy growing up in a world where so many doors were closed to me because of the color of my skin. But through art, I found a way to not only open doors for myself but to hold them open for others. As he looked out at the faces before him, Elijah saw the impact of his journey, eyes filled with admiration, tears, and understanding. Racism isn't something we can erase with one drawing or one speech, he continued. But with each step we take, with every story we tell, we move closer to a world where no child has to feel like they don't belong. That's why I keep drawing. That's why I keep speaking. And I hope you'll do the same in your own way. The audience erupted into applause, and as Elijah stepped down from the podium, he felt a profound sense of peace. He had turned his pain into purpose, his silence into a powerful voice. And though the struggle against racism was far from over, Elijah knew that every brushstroke, every word, and every act of kindness could help paint a brighter future.